listen up. Y'all, it's the Queen of Automation, Meghan, Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for complication.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about why technology, systems, operations, processes, all of the things are only good when they work, and hopefully how I can help you make them work. Today, I have another fantastic brand built member who his name is Jon Weiskopf. And yes, I absolutely asked him how to say that before we hit record because I did not have a clue. Jon is kind of taking the real estate investment arena by storm. Like, his content is really, really cool, but he's done some really amazing things in the real estate investment space, being a former engineer. And I can't wait for you to tell us all about your background, because I think it's a really cool story coming from Apple to where he is today. And yeah, so Jon, just tell everybody where you're calling in from. Tell us all about your background. I would obviously love to hear the Apple story, how you got there, and then what you're working on now, because it's going to lead me directly into this conversation that I want to have to you.
Okay.
Have
sure.
to you. Have with you. Jeez.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. My story. So let's see. Loved to tinker when I was a little kid. I think my greatest story to tell is my grandfather had like 40 different riding lawnmowers in his garage growing up. Most of them did not work, but one of them worked. And I was the young guy and I would mow his lawn, but I would also race that lawnmower against the neighborhood kid. And I would always break it.
Where did this take place?
This is in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I was just fascinated with how things work. You know, my mom bought me a computer. I broke it, would figure out how to fix it. Usually couldn't. Had to be like, Mom, we got to go find somebody to fix it. And it just snowballed into, wanting to go to school for engineering. Went to school to be a race car engineer, and I wanted to work on Ferrari's Formula One team. Maybe partied a little bit too much in college, because when I got out, I did not want to work. And when I finally got a job, I got a job doing building system design for commercial real estate. And that just kind of took off. I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I was really good at energy modeling in the energy efficiency space. So I kind of created a niche for myself. I was in the midst of a job transfer when I was living in New York City, unhappy where I was. And randomly, I got an email one day from a recruiter through LinkedIn, funny enough, for Apple. It took 6 months. They canceled on me about 5 different times, many of them the night before I was supposed to fly out. But, it's Apple, so you just say, okay, sure, yeah, just reschedule. Flew there, sat in the room for 8 hours. I'll tell you a funny story. It's kind of embarrassing being an engineer. I got into the office that I was in. It was like a glass cubicle. Couldn't find the outlet for the electricity. So I didn't know where to plug my phone in. It was horrible. Maybe I was just nervous.
I know how technology works. I swear I do.
Told the guy that hired me, actually hired me like a year later. I was like, a funny story. But anyway, they offered me the job. I lived on the East Coast my whole life, so packed all my stuff off, left all my friends, my family, everything, knew nobody in California, and flew out there. And Apple told me I was going to be only working in the U.S. But about a month in, they said, get your visa. You're going to China and Europe. And from that point on, I started traveling all around the world. I was probably out of the country, 3 to 4 weeks at a time.
Wow, that's a lot.
First year in California, I slept in my bed for 4 weeks. That's it. But I got to see the world. I got to experience different things. Apple has big pocketbooks, as most people wouldn't realize. So they usually buy things that are bigger or spend money on things that are bigger. So it was probably a chance of a lifetime to become head of engineering for them, to be in charge of all of their stores, the design, construction, related to engineering for them. But after 9 years, I was just completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Father, my wife gave birth to our first child, our son, right before COVID. And, I was working probably 30 hours a week before COVID. It probably went up to 100 during COVID. And then you're at home, you're trying to take care of a kid. It was very hard for me to give up my own time for my family, because I'm me, or I used to be, at least I should say. I took some time off of work and went to a real estate investing class. And I'm sitting around this room and I'm like, wait a second, I've been in real estate for 20 years. I never once thought about buying it. And every single person that is talking in this seminar, right, other than like a house, right, which is like the biggest mistake. But everybody sitting in that seminar that got up and talked and would tell their story, they're like, yeah, I used to like, I own a restaurant or I do this. And not a single person said they had real estate experience. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a second. I know everything about buildings. I've built all around the world. Like, I can do this and I can bring a lot of value to this. So I went home and I told my wife, I'm like, I'm quitting. She goes, huh? So it took a few months, maybe 5 or 6, and I put in my resignation, quit, and started my real estate investing company. That's kind of why I'm here, where I'm here today.
It's such a great story, and then I'll put my 2 cents in, because I feel like people like ourselves who came from these really big companies and spent a chunk of time there. Now, I wasn't at Apple, but I was at the largest retail manufacturer lifestyle company in the world for window coverings, and we're talking like they're worth like $2 billion.
Which one?
Big, huge company, Springs Window Fashions. And I mean, they're huge. They're huge, right? Like, if you know Bally blinds or Graver blinds, that's what we made and sold. And after 7.5 years, I was like, I never want to come to this office ever again. Like, it was so, like, I never took a vacation without my laptop. Always had it with me. I was always working. I was constantly always on, especially when you're in the technology part of things, right? And I realize now I probably could have done a better job of setting boundaries, and I probably could have made it work. But what you don't realize until you do the entrepreneur thing and you go out on your own, and I think this is a really good thing for everyone to hear. If you're in corporate right now and you're listening to this and you're thinking about this whole like entrepreneurship thing and you want to start your own thing, start setting boundaries for yourself while you're working for somebody else. Like, really strict boundaries. Like, I'm working 8 to 5. Because here's the thing. They can't take advantage of you unless you let them. And I learned this from a really good friend who worked at Nike and has spent his entire career at Nike and is really happy and successful there. And it's crazy to me. He loves it because he sets boundaries for himself and he doesn't let them, poke the barrier. And so anyway, that's kind of my soapbox on that. But what I find fascinating about your story is that going from like somebody like Apple, like you said, like this is a lifetime opportunity, right? Like working for Apple, and still got to the point of, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I actually want to see my family. I don't want to work a bazillion hours a week. And I think that's a really good point for people to hear, right? Because this thing we do as entrepreneurs and starting our own thing is to build a lifestyle that we actually like, as well as a business that we like. And I want people to realize that I put the lifestyle first for a reason. Style, then business, right? Like, you can build your business into your lifestyle. And I am really, 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 really curious to see how you're doing that now. Can you talk about, like, how hard was the transition between Apple's got dollars, like you said, they're throwing money at you and you're allowed to spend whatever you want, to like our good friend Darren from Bread Belt, like, I'm eating ramen noodles for 2 years and, feeding my kid bread. I mean, hopefully it's not like that, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a big, huge transition going from that.
Yeah, I think so first, I am extremely, extremely, extremely fortunate to have an amazing wife, successful, talented, who supports my venture, right? Gave me the opportunity to drop a very large salary and a lot of stock options that was probably our retirement plan all bundled up, and to say, and just watch it disappear, right? The second I walked out the door. I think what it makes you do, and I wrote a post on this a long time ago, so maybe it's time to repost that one. When you're in corporate America, you don't actually ever ask what it is things cost. That software, that coffee bar, that this, right? When you are by yourself, I see every line item on my credit card. I'm like, oh, what? Wait a second, what? Who spent? Oh, that was me. Oops, right?
I spent like, I think it was like $18,000 on Starbucks one year.
Oh, I'm not that far. I'm not that far. I have a little coffee maker over there. Corner.
Because, like you're in the office, so you're buying, like you would take turns where I would buy for my
Oh,
colleagues
yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
would buy
Yeah,
for
got it.
me.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm obsessed with coffee, so I am like I was doing this twice a day, in the morning and then at lunch. I would get coffee in the morning before I got to the office, and then on lunch, we would go and get lunch and eat out, and then go to get Starbucks on the way back to the office. So I'm doing this twice a day, every day. And then at the end, like you said, you see the line item after the year is over, you don't think about it. And I was like, my husband said, you can't go to Starbucks anymore. What are you, are you kidding me right now? That's like 2 vacations. Like, what is happening right now? It was stupid.
It makes you think, right? It makes you look at things and look, not a penny pincher sometimes. And certain things I definitely am, certain things I'm not. But it makes you question and it makes you think. And I think it's not about how much X costs and how much you're spending, right? I make sure that I'm cash flow positive. I have to be, my wife definitely is not, up for continuous investment forever, right? But it's the consciousness.
Yeah.
And I think, I was always, I worked at a small engineering firm, and during 2008, that firm went from 130 people to 30. And I told myself I would not get fired. But one thing I had always done, I was very close to the owners of the business. I would go out to lunch with them. They paid, so I saved money. But I always asked about the operations and the margins. Where are we? What are we doing? How are we doing? Are we performing well on our projects? Where can we do better? You have to be aware of what's happening. People get mad when the free bagels and the breakfast bar get pulled. Well, have you asked how the company's doing? Do you actually know how it's doing?
Would you rather have a job or would you rather have a free bagel?
So it's about understanding those nuances of like what makes, I think what's been most eye-opening to me is I was never in that. I was in charge of engineering. I was in charge of designing stores, making sure they worked, making sure they stayed on, they were comfortable, and all that stuff, right? All the other stuff did not touch my shoulders. I knew nothing about it. I didn't need to at Apple. There was a lot of money there, but even those smaller businesses, right? So it's just being aware. You're forced to when you own this business, and I want to see a profit at the end of the year. I want to see myself grow. I want to see change. So, they always say it's not what you make, it's what you keep. The best way to keep money is to never spend it and let it leave to begin with. So,
I always tell people, and you know this because you've heard me say it so many times before, you create 3 goals a year, and one of them is obviously revenue. And it needs to be lifestyle driven. It needs to have purpose within your life, not just for the business. And if someone asks you, what's your revenue goal? And you tell them it's 5% more than last year, that's not a goal. That's just a percentage increase. Even if you were to say it's a lifestyle increase, at least that's a thing. But you're not only do you need to know your numbers, you need to have those numbers be meaningful and something tangible to you. You want a beach home. You want I know it sounds crazy, but you want to take X amount of vacations a year. You want a beach home. You want a fancy car. I don't care what it is. I don't care. You want to send your kid to private school. I don't care what the goal is, but it needs to be lifestyle based so that then your numbers have meaning. When you're just increasing your numbers over last year to increase over last year, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard because you're not motivated. There's no motivation behind that number other than to make more money. And I guess if you're 100% motivated by money, that's great. But eventually you're going to be miserable because there's not going to be anything tangible behind it. I don't know. But I always tell people, if you don't know your numbers, you're already dead in the water. That's one. But 2, the easiest way to figure out if you're working on something that's meaningful inside the business is if you can't track the success of what you're working on back to those top 3 goals, then you shouldn't be working on it, right? It comes down to it's that simple. So people look at margins and look at numbers and they know their numbers. But then they waste then they wonder why they're not hitting their numbers. And then they look at all the tangible things that they're doing and none of those things equal their numbers. And I'm like, well, that's great. You know your numbers or you know the numbers that you want to have or want to get to, but you're never going to reach them because you're over here working on stuff that doesn't make an impact
Yeah, I mean,
to
look,
the business,
I'm down.
to the bottom line,
I'm
to
down.
the revenue, to the, I don't know. It's
I'm down
crazy.
this year, right? I'm down this year from where I wanted to be. So if I had said, "Hey, my goal is to increase revenue," right? I'm off my goal, but that wasn't my goal. I actually have a 3-year goal and a revenue mark for 3 years. I was starting at nothing. Any 1-year goal was going to be really intangible for me. There's a lot of setup. There's a lot of business creation. There's a lot of workflow and deal flow and all of those things, right? So, at the beginning of this year, I was looking at myself and I was like, oh my God, I'm so far off. I'm like a year and a half in, 3 years, and I'm that. And then I get to now and I started re-looking at it and I looked at it differently and I was like, oh wait, I'm actually not that far off actually. And if, something came up and ultimately fell through that would have almost hit my 3-year goal 2 years in. And so, okay, it didn't, but go back. But, I can also look back and I can say, I've had a ton of time with my son. I look at goals with both lifestyle, but also like, what am I doing to my business? So I might say, give an example, right? A 5% revenue growth to do X within my business. Maybe it's a new machine and maybe it's a new something that's ultimately going to get me to the next level that then produces my lifestyle output, right? It might be 5% revenue growth so I can hire somebody so I have more time to then do what I want to do outside of.
Exactly, but that's still lifestyle based. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
the revenue should always obviously benefit the business, but if you make the main goal lifestyle based, as in you want 10 extra hours a week for you and your son, right? Like that's the actual goal. And then you step back and you say, okay, what do I have to do in my business to get that, to make that happen? And then you break it down a step farther. What tasks do I have to do to, and so people think that sounds like a lot of work. Of course it's a lot of work. It's not easy. Yes, like that's exactly why people give up, because they think that it's going to be super easy. None of this is easy. And all that crap that's out there on the internet with a guy in a Lamborghini with this flashy video that he rented. Thank you. You don't even know. Like he rented that from the airport guy. Like, come on. Like these guys, I mean, like half this stuff is so fake. And here's a good funny story for you. I'll tell you this funny story. My son came to me, he's 20. And so he's like in this transition period of, he decided not to go to school, so he's trying to figure out like what he wants to do, because he was thinking military and then possibly actually going into a school in Indiana, a racing school, because he wants to be a mechanical and like do engines for F1 cars. Anyway.
There you go.
So he comes to me the other day and he saw some YouTuber, and don't remember the kid's name. He's like 21 years old, with these flashy cars, and that's kind of what drew his attention, was the flashy sports cars.
It worked.
And this kid is selling coaching, and he lives, like about 3 or 4 hours north of us here in Wisconsin, and he's selling coaching for people who want to do media buying, like marketing media buying, and he was smart enough to ask me, he's like, Mom, when you look at this, do you think I should join his program? And then I looked up, no, I'm like, you're not giving this guy any money. And it was funny. We had a really great conversation, but I was looking at him going, oh my God, no. I'm like, no, he hasn't lived enough life. You cannot give him money. I'm like, please don't give him money. And it was funny, but it was a really, really great conversation. It was a really fantastic conversation to have with my young adult son, who's actually looking at all of this stuff, and he's right there in the thick of social media and YouTube and all of these people that are coming up out of the woodwork that, let me show you how to make $1 million. Let me show you how to make 2. And here's my flashy cars. And he's the prime target for all of these people. So it's like, how can we make that not happen for our young people? Because it's like, it's really cool. I'm glad these people are figuring things out and how to make money, but it's also really dangerous because they're not all sustainable. They're not all really sustainable methods here. Like, let's not teach people how to do that. That's bad.
The best coach, I mean, my first boss in building engineering, I was very motivated. I always want to be the best that I can. I always want to be better than others at what I do. It's just that competitive nature, right? But so I would say
you have to be if you're an entrepreneur, right? Like you have to have a little bit of that like drive and that competitiveness. You have to, right? Otherwise you wouldn't survive.
Or it's But like, so I would stay late. I would take on assignments that I had no right brain to take on. But I was like, I can figure this out. Sure. Like, come on, give me that
Google.
And I was unoffended if I screwed something up, and he was the type of guy like, I told you this already. Don't, you know what I mean? Like, but he told me, but it was I still remember the lessons. I mean, this is 20 years ago. And I still remember those lessons that he taught me. But it was how he taught me, right? The experiences that he had that made it sink, that I don't ever want to go through that, right? Like that experience, that failure, that engineering mess up or something like that. And so it's, to that coaching thing, how do you tell other people, like, you're not going to get anything from the internet, even somebody that's giving you a coaching program over the phone, like you got to meet with them every day or every week. Like, you got to meet in person, see them, see what they actually do, not let them tell you what they do, watch them actually do it.
Yeah.
That's like a coaching
Well,
program.
if you're doing it on Zoom, even if you're doing it on Zoom, the coaches that do the best, like online, like virtual coaching, they're having meetings like this where it is a live call. It is you one-on-one live call. They are sharing their screen. This is why, like, I really try to do a lot of those educational step-by-step videos if I'm teaching somebody, because that's the only way to teach them. You literally physically have to show what you're doing, how you're doing. Don't just talk about it. And it's really difficult to repeat exactly what somebody else did also. So that's the hard part, is that a lot of these younger coaches they're teaching you exactly how they did it. They got success one time. And it is true. They say, like, if you can do it once, you can repeat the system. You can. But now you're training somebody else how to do exactly what you did. And this is somebody else. It's a different brain, a different human, a different personality, a different way of, and now you're trying to like fit them into your like box or, and some people do it in a way that they're taking everything that comes out of that person's mouth literally, like 100% literal, right? And you can't do that. And some people just aren't built for that. Like, oh, they're giving me this framework. Like they're telling me what they did, and now I have to adapt that into my world. Most people can't do the adaptation. They can't do the adaptation into their world. So they're taking somebody else's framework, trying to shove themselves into it, and then they fail, and then they're like, oh, that coach.
I tried that with LinkedIn for a while. It didn't work. And then I was like, wait a second, this isn't working. I just need to, you know what I mean? It took me a while, but now I have my own system, right? Like
to realize, like, you can't just do it.
I have my own system. I do it. I was supposed to be creating content this morning, and I got busy up doing something. So when we get off the phone, I'm going to be making my content for next month. But like, I got a system, but it took me, like, I've been posting for nearly 2 years. Like, it took me over a year to actually create a system that I could actually use over and over again. And I've messed up and I've thrown things away and said, this doesn't work. And I've tried 100 different things, and like, but it takes.
That's a really good thing for people to hear, though. That's an amazing thing for people to hear, though, because, like, so we have a lot of people who come into Brand Build, and you were definitely not one of them that did it this way. But sometimes we get people in there and they just want to copy exactly what Nat Burner does. You can't do that. You can listen to him teach you, and he'll give you what he does and how he does it, but you still have to adapt it for your brand and your voice and your lifestyle and the way you do things. Now, is he going to give you a framework? Yeah, for sure. And there, he's giving you steps that you can try and take, but they may not work for you depending on your product, your service, or who you are, right? And so it's that adaptation into your world. The same thing goes with systems and processes and technology and software. Okay? What works for me, what works for John, it might not work for you. Like, people need to realize that there really is no one-size-fits-all blueprint on how to grow a business. And anybody who tells you, they're just not. Because our two personalities, we both work in technology, and I can tell you we probably do things completely different. In the meeting of the minds, we probably sit together in a room and show each other and learn from each other about different things, because I don't know a damn thing about real estate investment and how he's putting systems together for that and how he's doing processes for that. I don't know anything about that. I could probably sit in a room with him for 2 hours and learn a whole bunch of really cool shit, which, by the way, I'm probably going to pick your brain on later anyway. And then same with me. When I'm talking systems and processes, I'm talking operations. And every business, this is why I love doing operations, because every business is different. John's business, I could probably help him put systems and operations in place for his business, and then turn around and do a coach, and then turn around and do e-com, and then turn around. This is why operations is so cool, because every business is different. every challenge is a new problem to solve, right? Usually at a fundamental level, it's the same thing. They want more time, they want more money, and they want it faster. That's generally like the three things that you're solving. It's just which lever do you move to get there. But I'm really excited to learn from you.
The funniest thing from what you're saying is when you work for somebody, you are told what systems to use, what software to use, how to do something. Yes, I got to set up my own workflows and how my team did stuff and things like that. Like, yeah. I got to do all that stuff, right? Like, but, Apple had their software. It was either their custom or this, Monday.com, like whatever it was, right? Everybody has their thing and you're forced to use it. So you don't really think about, is this the best way to do it? Sure, you can do things on your side. How do you take notes? How do you respond to emails? Whatever. When you become an entrepreneur, it's all available to you. And so you kind of sit there and you're like,
here's 10,000 different pieces of software that will help you email better. And you're like, I'm just going to go with Google. It's like, it's free. Like, what? Like, what's happening right now? It's like mind blowing.
I got into the trap, and being an engineer, I like to systemize things, but I will tell you the one thing that I have learned, which I'm grateful that I've kind of let myself go a little bit, is to actually be messy first. Have a simple Google Sheet. Have a simple this, right? Create a cadence. Create kind of a repetition. Then turn that repetition into something that enhances what it is. You can't go straight to a system. It does not work that way.
Or tool. When I say system, that means the repeatable process that you're doing to do something. That could be manual, that could be copying. I don't care. A system is how you do something, not the tool you use to do it with. And people are like, oh, that makes way more sense. I said, yeah, exactly. You don't have, if you have no systems inside your business, then you have no business automating or buying software to do the automation. Because you're literally just going to make your life. Oh my God, you're just going to make your life even more complicated and even more messy because you're building around something that doesn't exist yet. It's like, oh my God, don't do that. That's horrible. Like you have to, even if it's just the baseline of you want, the 3-step process of how you're going to onboard somebody. Like, I don't care. Write it down on a sheet of paper for all I care. At least then I know you've thought about it. And then when you come to me and you say, can you make this easier? Does this make sense to you? I have something to go off of. Because people get really frustrated when I tell them no, right? I'll tell them, no, I can't work with you. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because you haven't even thought about it yet. When I ask you what your goal is, you don't even know where you want to be, right? And so
everybody wants a done for you system, Megan. Everybody wants a done for you system.
They just want to, and I can absolutely do it for you, but you have to have some idea up here, even if it's up here and I'm helping you get it out on paper, you have to have thought about it for more than 5 minutes. Like, this isn't over like your breakfast sandwich and you're drinking some coffee and you thought about it for 2 seconds. No. Like, actually spend like 15 minutes with your brain and put it down on a piece of paper, do something here. I don't know. It's very crazy to me how sometimes though, then you get the people who are just really, really successful and their back end is just a shit show.
And you're like, somebody else is there to help.
You're thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, how did you even get there? But then what people don't realize from the outside is a lot of these people, by the time they get to me, these are people that are very, very successful. And I, no names being mentioned because that's a horrible thing and I would never do that. But like these people are really, really successful and they've done really well for themselves. And then they come to me and they're like, okay, I can't, like they've hit that kind of the glass ceiling, right? And what they call it, they hit that ceiling because they can't scale any farther because their systems and processes and tools, it's such a mess. They're either using too many tools, nothing's connected. They don't know which of the things that they're doing is actually making them money. They're making money, but they can't track it. And even though they know their numbers, they're not sure which channel it's coming from. And the behind the scenes is just, and so then eventually what happens, they hit the ceiling of I can't scale anymore. So what I always tell people is, like Jon said, you start out, you write it on paper, it's a spreadsheet, I don't care, use Airtable, use Google Sheets, I don't give a crap how you do it. start out at a baseline, put the processes together and how you want the operations to be, where you want to go. And then within the first 5 years, you should put software in place, and it should be a sustainable software that is going to scale with you. Because then once you hit 500, 600, 700, 800,000 or more, if you don't have any processes or systems or tools in place, then that's when it becomes a problem. Because now you've got a whole bunch of people in your life, a whole bunch of money coming in, and it's not going to get any better. The bigger you grow, it's just going to get messier. So I always recommend the first 5 years. Maybe not year number 1, maybe not even year number 2, but by year number 3, you should be looking. You should be for sure looking. And I usually say after year number 1, you should start looking. But, some people aren't quite there yet. But
I'll make everybody feel better. Even Apple struggled with this, right? And I've been gone for a few years. They're no longer the world's richest company. When I left, they were. But they struggled that, right? They struggled with data, data sets and good data and where to get it. And so when they started to actually realize, oh boy, we were going so far, so fast, and we had process, not that they didn't have any processes, but there was 3 main different groups, and each group did things a little bit differently, and there was only 1 or 2 documents that crossed over the divide, kind of, to call it. But when they realized that they needed to move into a place that was more consistent and more steady, and scaling was hard, and doing larger, more work instead of these big projects, doing more smaller things, they couldn't do it. And they had to invest. Now, luckily for them, again, money, was available, so they could invest a lot of money. But now you're talking about these brand new systems that were about to be pushed onto employees that had been doing things a certain way for a very, very long time.
People don't like change.
Yeah.
Especially when they're
so everybody experiences it. Doesn't matter rich, big, or successful company you are. Everybody goes through the same thing.
Absolutely, I totally agree. So I want you to tell everybody where they can find you and what's the best way to contact you if they're looking to learn more about the company and real estate investing and kind of what you're working on now, and they can follow the journey.
Sure. LinkedIn. I spend I'm going to say too much time on that. Copious amounts of time. LinkedIn, you can find me. All my information is on there. Everything's public. I share everything. I got a couple projects, and I just launched a private credit debt fund. I've been doing that for a long time, and decided to finally open it up to investors and kind of share in all the experiences that I've had and the benefits and success that I've able to achieve for myself to pass it along to others. And if you're in the real estate space, look at modular construction. That is my next little side project that I'm working on. I think that's the next technology jump.
That's awesome. And we will drop all of the direct links in the show notes, so people will have just kind of a click, and they can click and find you. And yeah, that's it. That I'm really excited. Thank you for doing this conversation with me, because I was just honestly just wanted to hear the Apple story. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really excited about what you're doing now, because I feel like there's a lot that I can learn from you. That's the one space that I have not attempted to venture into yet. So we're going to have some conversations about real estate investing and maybe figuring out how I can get started, because I definitely feel like it's one of those things that is something that every serious entrepreneur should have in their portfolio. But yeah, that is it for today. Thank you so much. And everybody, remember, technology, systems, processes, all of this stuff is only good when it works. And we will see you all next week.